And together, they give us the fullness of living stereo.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is the YOUniverse.
Good evening, everyone. You are listening to WLTK-DB, Let's Talk Radio, and you just tuned in to the YOUniverse, where you have found myself and the amazing Rob Thompson. How's it going today?
We can lose the amazing. I appreciate it, though, but you can. I'm just old Rob Thompson. Well, no, not even old. Yeah,
no,
the illustrious, enchanting, inimitable that Stephanie Lynn.
I wouldn't go that far. Incorrigible.
All right, whatever.
How are you, though?
I'm good. It's the YOUniverse. It's some strange energies going on.
Oh my goodness!
A lot of weird stuff, and people in Canada who are FaceTiming me, and it's like clear as a glass of water, and we are here 1,000 miles away with smoke from Canada.
I know. I can't even. I was just actually. I have a really sore throat today because we have like the highest air alert up here in northern Wisconsin, and I've been walking, and my throat is just on fire today. So I'm ready for this. I feel bad for them that everything's burning, but something needs to shift.
Yeah, what I don't understand is that why we're not seeing more of it on the TV. I mean, I don't want to fuel the conspiracy theories because obviously, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not there, so obviously nothing. I mean, so I think it's just a very odd energy that
it is
as we passed over, because of course the viewers and listeners haven't seen anything from us since this spring,
right?
You know, and now it's the summer, so we're past the equinox, Glastonbury, which I once again missed this year, festival, summer solstice with the light coming through Stonehenge.
Oh, I hear it's beautiful. That's on my bucket list.
It's mine too. It's my county. That's Wiltshire. That's where I'm from, and yet I never saw the solstice there.
Really?
Stonehenge, but
yeah, interesting.
But speaking of changing tides and lights and transitions,
absolutely.
You won't believe who this week's guest is. Amazing lady.
Yeah, I was really impressed looking at her bio and all the things she does.
It's so refreshing to see, and I watched her on Todd's show, and she was of course amazing, so I had to get her on this week, and luckily she was able to make it.
I love it.
And it's just extraordinary work that she does, because she's a death midwife, or I would say maybe a death doula.
Yeah,
how I would say it. And what a beautiful thing to because it is a celebration, because yes, of course it's a time of mourning, but you're transitioning into the afterlife. So anyway, so Melanie Ceraso, if I've said your name wrong, I do apologize. Welcome to the YOUniverse, darling. There you are, Miss
Hello.
Hey. You talked me up. I'm just like, who is this?
All deserved. I'm so impressed.
Well deserved. Yeah.
Thank you.
Tell us about your life and your childhood.
My goodness. Well, I think it's funny that you said that I have this kind of crazy background and I do all kinds of stuff, because I think Spirit tells just about anybody who's doing a reading for me that I'm all over the place. But I think I found some focus. I'm hoping I found some focus. I'm working on it. So traditionally, I work as a web designer. Been doing that for almost 30 years, which is kind of crazy. It makes me feel really old. And then
the club.
I know, right? Like it's weird. It's really weird. Like, oh, I am the old people. Cool.
Yeah, when does that happen? Like, it just, I look around sometimes and I'm like, okay, someone's got to be in charge. Like, this is crazy. And then I realize I'm the adult. Like, that just sneaks up on you.
It's so weird, isn't it? Like,
it is.
Oh, like,
I have to do, okay, regroup.
Right? Like, hang on a second. Right. I'll get back to you. Yeah.
Can you remember where you were, though? I know I digress. I'd apologize real quick. But can you remember where you were when you first realized that you were a lot older than you felt? Because I can. I was home in England. I was visiting my mum, and I was in a supermarket, and there was a person, and I thought that I went to school with, and I was like, oh wow, there's Adam's dad. He looks pretty good for his age. And then for about, I was going to go and say hi, and then wow, he really looks like Adam. And then I was like, it's Adam. And then I went and I looked in the next shiny surface, which was a refrigerator door. And I was just like, I went through the door into Tesco and came out an old man.
Right.
And that's, I'll never forget it. It was a horrible feeling. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes. So I've always kind of been, I feel like as a kid, my parents, I had plenty of people. I'm one of the, I am the youngest grandchild on my mom's side. And so I've got so many people that are older than me. And I was always being dragged to those funerals, always. And it was the full funeral, the car parade, the luncheon afterwards. I was excited about the spumoni. It's all good, right? Yeah. So they never really hid anything from me. And then I think I've always just been interested in death and dying and having this sort of understanding. I was raised Catholic, but whatever. It's all good.
We won't go there.
Yeah, we won't go there. That's probably why I'm here. So I think I've always sort of had this feeling that there are spirits, there are ghosts. I've always had that feeling that when someone passes, they are still around, even animals. And so, I played a lot of role-playing games in my 20s. I played Vampire the Masquerade. I was, a clan Giovanni. They were the necromancers. So they always had the spirit armies and all this other stuff. So
that sounds like a really good band name, Giovanni and the Necromancers.
I know. Well, it was part of the Italian thing. I was like, of course I'm going to do the necromancers, whatever, And so, so a friend of mine went through this death midwife training about a year ago. And I was like, that is so cool. That was really the first time that I had heard about it. And I was like, and then as my mom has been aging, she just turned 83. And I'm Happy just birthday, like, Mom. Right. And then I was just like, I'm going to be that adult, that has to plan and organize and coordinate. And I'm also I tell people I'm her emotional support animal. So I am the one that's running her to doctor's appointments and kind of helping her still maintain some independence as she ages. And so it just felt like a really good fit. I was sitting around this spring and just kind of there's an opportunity to go to some training. And I knew the person that did the training, and she's really super well known, and took it. And here we are. I'm just kind of...
Give her a plug. What's her name?
Oh, Angie Buchanan. She is from the Earth Traditions coven down in Chicago. She's super amazing. Yeah. And she does all this death midwife training, and it's unbelievable. It was a weekend, a solid, heavy content weekend, and just so empowering and just sacred, really.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, and tell us a little bit about what all is involved, in that training, pretty much, like sum it up,
A lot of it was learning about like what the functions of a death midwife are. I mean, it's a pretty wide spectrum. In short, we're kind of the water, we like to say the water that flows between the rocks of the medical and funeral industry.
Oh, I like that.
Isn't that lovely?
Mm-hmm.
Just helping to facilitate and represent the dying. I mean, much as a birth midwife or a birth doula does for the mother who is about to give birth, it's really kind of being that facilitator and coordinator for the person who's dying. What are their wishes?
Right.
And so you can do the very basics of helping someone do death planning, which can be very legal based, like, healthcare power of attorney and finances and those topics, healthcare directives, like do not resuscitate me.
Right.
And then also too, just to help them decide, what should we do with you? What should we do with your body when you are gone? And presenting options, because there are so many more options than what that traditional modern funeral experience can be.
Yeah, I mean, people don't really, I don't think you think about it too much unless you've been a part of it, but that the amount of work and organization that actually is involved, because it's and
the families are grieving at the same time, right?
Absolutely.
So it's kind of like, can we hold some space so that the families can grieve,
right,
and soften that grief by allowing them to really be present. And then I'll go do the running and help with the other logistics.
And I'm curious, and I'm sorry if you guys covered it when I popped out. We had a mini crisis, so I'm very sorry for that.
Are you good?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. There was a stranger at the door, and I'm the only adult home, so my son was freaking out. So I'm sorry, I had to step away. But my question is, a lot of people might look at, being a death midwife and then wondering, well, how is that different than hospice care? Do you work hand in hand with hospice, or what's the differences between that? It
would primarily be us working with hospice, because hospice is generally very, they're part of that medical community and palliative care, right? So it would really be working with them, but we're not medically licensed.
Okay, that makes sense.
Gotcha. Okay, so yeah, it's really quite extraordinary how over the centuries, over the millennia, we've sort of garnered this strange sort of morbidity, this stigma about death, when other cultures really embrace it. And not only do they embrace it, they celebrate it. Absolutely. So, I mean, the indigenous tribes, there's a couple, I think, left in Indonesia, for example, that every year, I don't know if it's every year or is it every, I got a feeling it's every year, they dig up their relatives.
Where they go through the town. Yeah.
And then they put them, if they used to smoke a cigar, they put a cigar.
Yes.
I'm not making this up. All right.
No, it's an awesome tradition. I know what you're talking about.
Do they rebury them then?
Then they they sort of do the whole interaction thing with them, on the porch, and a chicken and waffles and they're like reading a book. And it's a way of sort of having them around in the physical world and sort of remembering it. It's kind of got that, it's got Coco, really written all over it. You know what I mean? Remember me.
It's called Manini, if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Okay. Yeah.
Manini, yes.
Yeah. Manini. So that just goes to show you how very different other cultures are when it comes to death. The Egyptians, for example, would bury their at least their leaders, the aristocracy, you know, their higher echelon, with their not only their worldly possessions that they would need in the underworld, but even their servants. So, you know, servant is got to be hoping that his boss
Mom. Yeah, not going with you.
Yeah, it's just like, I think I'm gonna quit. You're looking pretty rough, and I kind of like my kids. It is, and you can laugh about it. But Steph, don't you think that there's like it's changed as well? Like in the last, like,
well, and we used to, I think, be a lot more hands-on with our dead. Like prior to the Civil War, I mean, parlors, old houses have parlors, and you would have your visitation in your home, and your family would do a home funeral. And no one necessarily embalmed. It was very much embalming was seen as like a privilege to the rich, or even a funeral home was considered very fancy. And somehow somebody was like, hey, we're onto something. And
something completely different than you know, you see a lot of the cases now where you can become a giant mushroom or you know, all of these. But
do you know, I always wanted to be donated to a body farm.
You can.
I know my mom was totally against it, but I've had a will since I was 14, and that was always in there. I wanted to be donated to a body farm.
I mean, right. And I think in some cases that's almost better than being donated to like science or
I think you might ask Todd. I think he knows where there's a body farm or field of body.
We're talking about that in the
where he puts his. We'll have to find out. But there's.
I want a canine specifically to sniff me out. That's what I want.
Well, that who doesn't? And you used to lay out grandma on the, you know, in her coffin, on the living room table.
The local cabinet maker would make the coffin
right next to the cucumber sandwiches, and you know, cheers, grandma. Ooh.
Well, and you know, look at the death albums that we used to have of taking those pictures, and that was our way of remembering people.
Right.
That's a good point. Weren't they like propped up or something?
Sometimes it's just them in their coffins. Especially with really young children, they would prop them up to look still alive because people couldn't always afford. Yes, Rez, plant me up on the reservation. I'll take you up on that offer. Thanks, buddy. Because they couldn't afford family photos, so they would try to get one after they had passed if they weren't able to prior to that.
It's amazing, right?
They were creepy. I mean, I agree. Todd had commented they were kind of eerie, and they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so you know, it really makes you wonder. Whether we have the capability of, you know, of woof woof woof, and of going sort of, well, I guess against Hollywood's sort of the little niche that it's carved in for. This is death in America, and it's just not. You don't have to accept that.
Do you think in society, I mean, across the board, as I was raised, we take care of our elderly, you know, you take care of people as they age and get closer to transitioning. But I'm seeing this trend where our aging family or ailing family is just an inconvenience. And it's kind of like not that we're not sad, not that we don't grieve, but it's almost the quicker we can get through it, push them away and forget, because I think people are afraid to feel that emotion. Does that make sense? I mean, do you guys see that trend in society?
Yes.
Let me just check, make sure my mum's not watching. Yeah, I absolutely agree.
I feel like like a whole new like can of worms. I could totally just
go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
Because I feel, I mean, as my mom has been in a couple of, you know, assisted living environments, so much of it I feel like is about quantity of life and not quality of life.
Yes.
And I mean, healthcare in this country is horrific, and it's like, hey, we can keep the zombies and the nursing home for a while, and
right.
it's not cheap. It's not affordable, and it's horrible, honestly.
And like you said, what is the quality of life for a lot of people?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta comment. If you think that that healthcare is bad here in the States, which statistically it is, I mean, I think 30 something in the world, this big world. I would normally be so patriotic to my, precious, my beautiful England. But unfortunately in the UK, it's horrific, absolutely horrific. Go there and get the medical treatment, and then you'll come back and you'll be raving about the American system, because there are endless waiting lists. Waiting lists to be on a waiting list.
Right.
There's it's an absolute shit show.
And am I correct in that England has what we dub the death boards that can just say, no, you're not worth treating because you're going to cross? I mean, I've seen that with some extreme cases, and I don't remember the case, but I think it was in England and it was a child, but they just deemed it too expensive to provide the treatment. And I want to say that was in England.
Well, look, the thing is, this isn't about the NHS, the workers. Okay, this is about the government.
Yes,
okay,
right.
We have to toss out the conservative government that's been destroying the UK for way too many years in a way overstretched NHS. That people are working ungodly hours and doing everything they can to mitigate.
Absolutely.
But they're underpaid, overworked in a system that is in absolute swamp disarray. So
when Lizzie says that healthcare in Scotland is a total joke too.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, my mum's been waiting for years. She had to wait for 3 years for her op, and it was pretty much a next day out op. So 3 years.
We do have a viewer question getting us a little bit back on track. Dina asks, she says, Melanie, when do you start with a death midwife? Would it be at the same time as hospice? That's a great question.
Probably so. If it specifically is like working with an individual who is in that process of dying, I think it's really up to them. I mean, death planning, we can do that whenever. In fact, I wish more people would do it. But I think if someone were to hire me as they are probably put on hospice, I know one of the things that has come up in one of the death cafes that I just had last month, I should say this month, it's still June, was a family felt a lot of confusion because hospice has its own set of terminology. Doctors have their own set of terminology. And the family was there and really felt a lot of unease, about the death rattle, the process that the body goes through as you're passing through that threshold. And in that case, a midwife could have had a session with the family or been there to help bring them, it's comfort for the living as well, and to help set those expectations. So I would say, to be more actively involved while they are in hospice. Yes.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be amazing? I know.
Yeah, it really would. It would. I mean, I don't know what does it cost for your services? I mean, I've got to ask because it just sounds like, I mean, is this something that everyday people could afford, or?
Well, so I'm just getting started. I think ideally what we would do is have there's always the free consultation, right? Sit down, meet with the family, see what the expectations are. It could be actually, there are a couple of different ways. There's the family session with everybody. It could be even just spending some time. Let's say a family member needs a break, but they would like someone to be there with the dying individual to play music, read a book, do some Reiki healing. You know, it could be anything, combing their hair. I mean, human touch is amazing. A lot of times people are very stigmatized and they don't want to touch anybody who's dying. So, you know, maybe then it's coming in and spending an hour or two with that person.
Right.
Or it could be actually, you know, holding vigil while they are actively in that process of dying, to be there with the family. So I think my starting rate is going to be $70 an hour. But I do also, I realize that there are people who may not be able to afford it. I definitely don't want to have this sort of barrier to entry, right? Because I do feel like everybody should have a chance to make this as sacred as possible.
Absolutely.
And so I'm going to work out like some other income levels to try to also make it accessible to under marginalized.
Yeah.
Because we should not be limited to what we can afford.
Right. And Tom asks, have you noticed, you know, doing this work, has it changed the way you live your life now or look at things versus before you started working as a death midwife?
I think so. I feel like in some ways it has set me free a little bit because I think well, on a metaphysical level, I'm very spiritual, metaphysical based. So I think the idea of feeling comforted and knowing that it is not the absolute end of everything.
Right.
Is amazing. But I love the idea, especially because I am currently single. And I have, since I am that younger person in my family, I mean, I don't have a spouse. I don't have my own children. You know, I could hire a midwife to come and be with me, you know, and to help me walk through that. So I think that in itself is very comforting. Like I'm now part of this network of people that I know I can pull in. And I feel like I'm not the only one. There are a lot of individuals out there who don't have family, don't have that support.
Absolutely.
You know? And it doesn't, I mean, unfortunately, that just seems to be the trend that we're kind of going.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine. Were you doing how long have you been doing this? If I've asked that twice, I apologize.
Oh no, so I was just certified in I feel like time is so weird. In March.
Because the reason I'm asking is I can only imagine, you know, with the pandemic, how challenging something like that would be, because of course a lot of it would have to have been via FaceTime. Or
well, and we did talk about that in the training too, you know, and that's kind of, I think, one of the services that I would offer, because now too people are scattered so much more than what, I mean, everybody used to live in a little community and you'd be really close to your family.
Absolutely.
You know, and culturally now we're everywhere. So, you know, could I offer a live FaceTime of a funeral or even an at-home funeral, you know, or to help make those connections? Because a lot of people are not technically fluent, and I'm pretty technically fluent. So, you know, can we make that happen? Or, you know, what are some other ways that you could help someone interact remotely with that person who's dying and still have a connection with them?
Yeah. How do you add, you know, that grace into what people view as such a grim, you know, and I know, and I often think about, you know, when my father-in-law was on hospice, and he was not the most patient, you know, and so sometimes you work with all those different personalities. How do you bring that grace in for, well, really for anybody, but, you know, some of those that are more challenged to believe that, soften, you know, and to believe that there's something more.
That's a really good question. And I think it really depends on that individual. I mean, you know, if someone absolutely is going to say, well, you know, I'm going to hell or I'm not going anywhere, I think you could talk with them and maybe try to soften that a little bit, the fears.
Yeah.
You know, and really, I think just listen. I think just see them and acknowledge where they're at. And I mean, I think being an empath definitely helps because I so easily like absorb all those feelings and see things in people.
Right.
So I think just really holding space for them is really where what it comes down to, you know, and helping to control some of the dynamics with others too. Because to me, it's just kind of like a wedding. Like the wedding is the event and everybody brings their own drama in and whoo, you know, it can be messy and families can be really messy during that time, and trying to just like help facilitate those connections or like stop that drama from happening, or if the dying really does not want, you know, a certain person in the room, to try to hold that space and that respect for them.
Sort of be a diplomat.
Right.
Yeah, that's probably not easy, and it's probably a good thing too, because you're sort of the neutral territory. You know, you're
right.
The adjudicator.
I'm not, you know, cousin so and so from this side who's always causing problems, you know, or whatever. And you definitely are, I think, more of a neutral person, and you're able to like, you know, take the troubled family member out of the room and kind of try to like control the environment a little bit.
So yeah, go ahead, Steph.
Well, I was just going to say, Dina had commented that she says she would have liked to have known that the death rattle was going to occur when her mother-in-law passed with them in the room. So I do think that's a really good point of just
people don't know.
No,
right?
They don't.
Unless you're like, you know, I have a friend of mine she's actually getting her certification as well. And she's got a nursing background and has worked with a lot of the elderly. And so she has been literally there in the middle of that threshold and has the medical knowledge. And I'm just like, brilliant, you know, like she can help set that stage of these are how the steps occur and this might happen. But I agree. I think the average person doesn't know. I mean, again, too, we've been kept so sterilized by the industry where, you know, you go to the visitation, it's a very controlled environment, you know, and that's maybe all you know, if you are even exposed to that. Because
I'm trying to put myself in your, you know, shoes, and I know this probably sounds crazy, but it really shouldn't sound crazy, because, you know, funeral homes do it, but you know, if someone wanted a more elaborate passing ceremony, you'd be able to organize and orchestrate that.
Absolutely.
And you know, people could you know, pay, you know, in advance by the month, you know, until, you know, and so that everything would be ready. Because I just, if it were me, I can't think of a more beautiful thing than to be just hearing my kids' laughter. Having my kids around. My kids are laughing when I'm on my deathbed. There's something wrong, but
and yet maybe not.
But maybe not. Go on, kids, go enjoy yourself. And it, you know, candlelight. You know, maybe some soft music, some sort of uplifting, positive music, because, you know, death really isn't that negative, oh, woe is me, you know, thing. It's something we've perpetuated. The grieving process, of course, is horrible.
Right.
But maybe
so natural too. You know? And I think people also need guidance through that. Like our society just so wants it to be this limited thing, you know, like, why aren't you done yet? And it's like, no, my dad died 30, almost 30 years ago. And let me tell you, I still have moments where I'm just like, whoa, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it doesn't ever end, you know? And yet everything is very time boxed. You have to get back on your horse and keep going.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. It's very true.
It is true. It's frustrating.
It is, because I think, like you said, there's this, and with a lot of things, you know, if you're going out for a knee replacement, well, the regular timetable says you should be able to come back to work in 3 weeks. You know, we standardize everything. We, in a society that is so focused on seeing individuals and, you know, accepting across the board, yet we can broaden all these things, but yet we standardize so much.
Yes.
Yeah, we feel like we have to fit into a certain category, you know, and then we sort of mold ourselves to that rather than, you know, the other way around. And so that's what I was like, found it so refreshing. And I'd never really thought too much about, I had thought about, you know, how incredible that would be to do what you do.
I mean, we did, during the training, we did a mock funeral, home funeral. And I mean, the person was living, and we, you know, went through the motions of bathing the body and wrapping the body and putting flowers on the body. It was so emotional and so touching. I'm even getting chills now. Because it's just so sacred, you know, and I came out of that and I thought, so my mom wants to very much have the modern funeral, which sort of kills me a little bit because embalming is terrible. And I don't want that for her, but this is what she is comfortable with. And this is what she has in her head. So that's fine. I'm not even going to push the buttons with her. But I thought to myself, you know what? If I get, and not all of us get the privilege of being there when someone dies, but if I get that honor of being there and having that moment with her, you know, I am going to wrap her and spend time with her before. I don't want like that zippered bag touching her body, you know. It's just, you know, how can we make it sacred and special, you know, and we even watched a couple of, I mean, home funerals are one thing, but we did watch a couple of movies with some home funerals, and the kids were involved. The kids were drawing pictures on the side of the coffin, you know, or drawing pictures and putting them up on the wall. And then after the person died, family members were allowed to come in, be with them. And then they took their picture off, you know, the pictures off the wall and stuff. And like kind of we're part of that, like, okay, we're going to take this down now, you know? And I think there's so much more that we can participate in, you know?
I think it's also about the mindset of the people that you have at this, you know, at the time of passing. Because I know that when Heather's dad passed, he had this saying, "Bye for now," and
I love that.
He was the larger than life character.
Yeah.
He was just a good, solid bloke, and he just a good person, and funny. He's great. He was great with his family, and that was all pre-planned, and none of us knew it. And we walked into the after he was cremated, and on the little box there it said,
"Bye for now."
And
I love that.
Yeah, and that was my daughter. She was 4 at the time. It said my daughter and my son, who was I think 9, and they were like, "My pops is in there," you know, and she couldn't understand you know, it pops us in there, and we're like, yeah, but no, but yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Because he's up there and he has no pain anymore, you know. So
Right.
Right.
I just think I think everything is about, you know, how perception.
Absolutely.
So you're changing perception one client at a time. Did you freeze up?
Oh, she must have froze up. I know for me, you know, you were talking about the cremation. When my father-in-law was home on hospice and he had passed and the kids wanted to come in and say goodbye, the way I explained it to them was the concept of, you know, you have a remote control car and it needs a battery to kind of run and to keep going. And the battery, you know, it runs out of energy. That's your soul, but you still have the remote control car there. So it is all about that perspective.
So Courtney Lopez saying, you ticked her off, Rob. Good job.
If she had enough, she's like, see you all later.
She's like, oh, well.
Been a lot of crazy weather.
Well, all over the place. Yeah. If it's not smoke, it's like we got like all kinds of stuff. Twisters, you know.
Oh, I know. It's been horrible.
And just rain. I've just like, we're starting to grow gills.
Oh my gosh. But I don't know about you, but we really need the rain here up
north.
north.
You were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
You must be psychic.
Just because it's all when I take the dog for a walk around the lake, I'm like, oh yeah, the rain, but we needed it. Yeah.
That's the minute I realized I was old. Yep. We needed that rain. Yep.
Well, you know what? The British are great small talkers, which I know really shocks you.
It does.
And they'll come out and they do small talk about, oh, hello, nice again. Oh, alive again. Sun again. You know, and I just... I think about
there
that.
She is.
There
Hello,
we go.
Seriously, like
normal service has been resumed. You spared everyone one of my silly stories.
Before we lose you again,
hopefully
Melanie,
not.
I know. Please tell everybody where they can find you or find out more information about you. How do they look you up?
So I am on Facebook. So the Death Midwifery is under Soul Dance Rights. So it's SOULDANSE. And I have my little website. I can't point correctly.
Oh, we lost audio there.
I give up, you guys.
Oh, there you are.
So my website is at rights.souldance.com.
Right under your name there. We can
right
see
under
it.
my name. Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes. Perfect. I'm so glad that you could join us today. I think it's great to bring people more options for, we can't avoid this. And right. I kind of giggle, and I shouldn't, but I have that warped sense of humor. When you're watching TV and a prescription comes on and it says increased risk of death, like how much more increased can it be? It's 100%, Right. So it's we all get our turn, unfortunately. And so I think it's wonderful to be able to bring people some other things that can come and help, so they don't stay in a place of suffering, that they can accept that transition and move on with being joy in their life.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we are starting to realize these things as a society and culturally, and we just need to start doing a little bit of change. And if we can make the healing better before and after and around it, it's so freeing, Yeah. Plus, I do think there are some interesting opportunities for those of us who are, into the whole metaphysical thing of working in mediumship and connecting once they have transitioned. I mean, Absolutely. I'm excited about that part of it. How can we soften it with that?
Narrow
Absolutely.
that sort of gap. Yeah, make the transition sort of smoother. Well, I mean, that's essentially that's what you're doing. Because really, if you think about it, it hasn't changed a whole lot for hundreds of years.
Mm-mm.
Maybe some of the ceremonies.
A long time.
but essentially not really.
Right.
We just
Right.
have more options now.
Right.
But-
And if you want to be upset about healthcare, if you knew some of the stuff going on in the funeral industry, you'd be upset about that too. So
Really?
Oh,
Really?
It's
Do we
not.
want to know? Do we want to know?
Oh, that's probably a whole new show.
That
Just
probably
saying.
is a whole new show.
We'll have you back. And
But I mean, to have even somebody to go with you, like if you want to do
Yeah.
a funeral through a funeral home, that's cool. But you know, take somebody with you who can ask some questions, right? And
that has that clear thought process.
Right.
Yes.
And you know, don't get taken for all that you can, you know.
I have a title idea. When she comes back, we'll call it Corrupt Corpses. And we'll talk about
the corrupt ones are probably still walking around.
They probably still are. They probably still are.
But it's true, you know. I mean, it's pretty crazy. And it even goes down to a legislature level of crazy.
Yes.
I mean,
does it really?
Oh, it does.
Sort of like a mafia, a Undertaker mafia.
Sort of. Like, yeah. I mean, it's amazing how much legislation some funeral director associations will lobby for.
Well, and you always hear those creepy stories occasionally too of a funeral home going out of business and they find corpses that were never buried or never cremated or it's just sad.
Right.
So thankfully we're not contained in that capsule when we do transition.
Yes.
Not.
No.
Holy cow. I know.
Well, on that note, we are running out of time, guys. It is that time where we have to say goodbye. And we have to go to break, and then we have to come back and tell everybody what's coming up.
Melanie, thank you so much.
Yes, it's been so lovely talking to you.
You are a sweetheart, and I bless you for the amazing work that you're doing, the sacred work that you're doing, and helping people. And
thank you.
They know where to get in touch with you, and
Absolutely.
let's have you back and talk again.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much for being here. We'll see everybody back in just a minute.
Hubble, bubble, toil and trouble. Focus your hocus and your pocus on our range of artisan handcrafted natural soaps. We can't give away the potion of youth, but a gift from Crescent Moon Soaps will please one and all. That's the truth. CrescentMoonSoaps.com.
Visit Crescent Moon Soaps.
If you're a fan of the paranormal world, then you'll love WLTK-DB Talk Radio. Talk shows bringing you the latest on everything paranormal, cryptozoological, metaphysical, true crime, psychic readings, and more. The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com. Just Sage It, a selection of intuitively handcrafted crystal jewelry, Crystal Creations sacred sage sprays, moon ritual mists, chakra and angel sprays, and more to balance your energies and manifest your best life. Energize your body, mind, and spirit. When life brings you down, just sage it at shopjustsageit.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the universe.
That sounds crazy, doesn't it? You know, because we've been here all along, you know, and it's funny, you know, how we normalize. We were talking about normalizing death, but Steph, you know,
right?
No, you don't. You gotta wonder, for example, how people like Buzz Aldrin, you know, when they're out looking at the moon,
right?
It's like, I was there looking here.
Right.
It's gotta be a mind, one of those.
Yeah.
And when you go out and you see the sun in the morning, you don't think, well, there's 100 trillion atomic bombs a second going off, and that's what's keeping us alive.
Right.
But it
Right.
is. You don't think about we're traveling on a ball of rock traveling at 900 miles an hour, and at
Right.
150,000 miles an hour, our solar system going through the galaxy. I mean, it's crazy.
So many intricate pieces that we consistently overlook.
Yeah. Do you believe in the microverse, Steph?
The microverse.
What
is the microverse?
Well, it's sort of that Horton Hears a Who theory.
Oh, yes. I do, because I just always, I ponder, and maybe it's not like they think it is, but even if you look at ants, I mean, they've got their own little universe and their own little anthill going on, separate from what we have going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And good music too. Adam and the Ants. But no, it's yeah, it is interesting though. It's the war on the frog on the the hair on the log on the bottom of the lake.
Oh, I love that. Don't get me started. I can sing that song all day.
Well, there you go. I just planted it
There you
right
go.
in your psyche.
You did. Now I'll sing that on my way to Michigan tomorrow. That's going to be our road trip song. My kids will be so happy for that.
So tell us all about Michigan.
Well, I'm heading out to the East Coast, as you know, visiting some family, but I also have family in Michigan, so I'm swinging up that way first, which is why I won't be here to join you next week.
And that's a bummer, because that's 2 weeks I got to deal with. I'm going to have the Steph cold turkeys, and I actually will be leaving to film the third episode of season 12 of the Ghost Finders.
Right.
Early, like 5 a.m. that following on the Friday.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know. But we're here Thursday, and we're it's nearly 8 o'clock. We're 4 hours away from
Friday, guys.
TGIF.
Hang in there.
Are you doing anything else on the 4th? By the way, I apologize. So I apologize for not being able to make your.
Oh, that's okay. That's
party.
okay.
I appreciate the invite.
No, we're I'm just looking forward to getting together with family and getting out there and visiting with my friends. It'll actually be one of my best friends' birthdays when I get out there, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm actually doing a little gallery for some people out there that have asked me to do a gallery, so I'm just going with the flow, going to Gettysburg. Excited about that.
That is a great, that's one of my favorite cities in Pennsylvania. And if you go there, you got to go to the Dobbin House. That's the best place for dinner. And you'll walk through that door and you'll think you've gone back in time. They're dressed in period clothes. The food is sort of their take on period food,
right?
But it is absolutely exquisite. There's nothing on that menu you can order that you won't like. So there's your free plug, Dobbin. And
I'll have to check them out. Thank you. I am looking forward to, when you guys see me, after next week, I'll probably be about 30 pounds heavier because I plan to live on cheesesteaks, hoagies, and really good pizza.
That's good. So. That's a good. That's a good diet for that.
I think so.
Kentucky, and this is a special time of the year. This is the time where we celebrate the independence of course, this great United States of America, where you cut off and got rid of a foreign adversary and dictatorship, and really a totalitarian dictator, and said, sling your hook and tea in the harbor and all that stuff.
No taxation without representation, I say.
Right. And then you switched the king out for your own dictator. So
it's a slippery slope. I don't think anybody.
I'm just messing with you.
No, but seriously, I mean, this is why we're here, to have these conversations. I think that really, we have to look at some term limits because these people have been in here for way, way too long. It's all part of the problem. But next week, who you guys have on? You have Maria Celeste on next week.
Maria
you and Todd
Celeste
will be
is on
hosting
next
together.
week. Yeah, she's
one of my favorite people, honestly.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. You know what? I don't. We haven't met, but I've heard a lot about her. I've seen her on her interviews, and including with Todd. And I think it's really going to be a fantastic show. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yes. And her crystals, I mean, I love Soul and Synergy. I get a lot of stuff through them, but I love her stuff. In fact, I just contacted her about, I think I'm ready for a Vogel stone. So
I just actually, you believe this, I just found her business card. Yeah, it is blue, Soul and Synergy. And so we have met, so I apologize.
Oh no, Soul and Synergy is actually Danny and Terry. Maria is Celestial Dancers.
So is it Celestial Dancers? Okay,
Celestial
all right, good.
Dancers,
Okay, well then we haven't. We're back to that. But I'm looking forward to that. You have a great time, Steph. And
yes,
you
careful. Too. Safe travels to your adventure. I wish you guys all the luck in filming. And you guys make sure you stick around here on WLTK-DB because there's other great shows coming up right after us and throughout the week.
And make sure that friends don't let friends drink and drive. All right.
Yes.
Let's have more trips around the sun together here in the universe.
We shouldn't let them dance and drink either.
No.
That causes problems too.
Dancing and drinking?
Yeah.
Depending how you're dancing.
Drive sober and dance sober, I say.
And don't dance while you're driving.
Correct.
Unless
a little head bob, but don't go too far. Yeah. No head banging to Queen down the highway. We'll see you guys.
All right.
We'll see you next week, and I'll see you all in 2 weeks.
And a happy 4th to everyone.
You too. Bye, Rob.
See you.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.